Jamal Murray tears his ACL, and the injury bug is running rampant in the NBA right now. What's up, y'all? It's your boy DSD checking in another edition of our YouTube. So today we're going to be talking about several things. Number one being the Jamal Murray injury. Number two is how it affects the Nuggets. And number three is if the shortened season is one of the real reasons why there's an influx of injuries this year, and if that's the reason why there's so many blowouts. We're going to dive into those three takes. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe down below. We cover it all sports stuff. We're going to be doing YouTube shorts. We're going to be doing, long discussions like this, different types of, comparisons, NBA memes, NFL memes. If you like sports, it's the place to be. So subscribe down below. I want to first come out and say that injuries suck. They're terrible. It's just the worst. And it always deflates a season. And it's always the worst possible time, it feels like, too. Horrible. Regardless if it happens to a bench player, superstar, or star, it's still terrible. But in this situation with Jamal Murray, it hits different. The Nuggets had a real opportunity to do something this year in the playoffs, and I'm just not sure they have that extra opportunity anymore while Jamal Murray goes down with a significant injury. But we're going to get into that in a little bit, so let's take a look at the Jamal Murray injury video. It's just going to be a quick one. Let me start out by saying right after looking at that video, injuries suck again. I hate injuries. They're always the worst, like timing, all of it. They're just horrible. It's terrible. I hate injuries, and they're just the worst. So just wanted to note that again. When Jamal really buckled his knee there, I'm not a doctor by any means, but I watch a lot of sports, and the second he did that, I knew that there was something really wrong. I mean, I think the whole social media world knew too. It blew up on Twitter. Everyone was freaking out, really concerned about Jamal, rightfully so, because when it buckles like that, and you have that awkward landing, and a fact of how painfully he was grimacing on the ground, grabbing his knee, I just knew. I was really hopeful that it wasn't going to be that case, but he's a torn ACL and he's going to be out until next season. I really hope Jamal comes back strong next season, and this situation doesn't completely destroy his next season, because injuries this late in the season really are just another buzzword. Suck. They're terrible, because when you're later in the season, it takes a longer time to get back on the court. So when you have a ACL tear, it's usually like a 9-month recovery time, and that's a best case scenario. And there's also times when people can do it faster, but it's normally like a 9-month time frame, like a rule of thumb. And then it takes 3 to 4 months to get back to the player you once were. And then, like I said, it's a best case scenario. So it could be a situation where he's not even Jamal Murray next season. It's just kind of coming back from that injury, which once again sucks. I hate that. I'm really bummed about it, and I really wish that that wasn't the case. So I'm sending a lot of positive vibes to Jamal. I really hope that he's just healthy and he gets through this and nothing extra setbacks happen and he's able to come back strong and be the player that we all know he can be. All right, so let's talk about the Nuggets now and what this means for them. Not good. I really think the Nuggets are dead in the water now. I really do. They had an unbelievable chance going to the Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals, like I alluded to earlier, but I just don't think they have that opportunity now. The second they got Aaron Gordon with a fully, loaded roster, I was like, oh boy. I don't think they've lost yet. I think that was actually the first loss they had with Jamal Murray with Aaron Gordon. It was like 7-1. I just don't think they have it. I don't think they have enough to get past the Clippers, the healthy Lakers, or even the Jazz for that matter. I just don't see it happening. Without Jamal Murray, they just don't have enough stud star power to get through the absolutely stacked West. Obviously, having the MVP front runner Jokic, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this video, is obviously good, but like I said before, I don't think it's enough. I think it's very unlikely they make it really in a deep playoff run. I think it's going to be like a second round exit, and maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they'll kind of rally around Jamal Murray, give us that like fight spirit and push through and say, oh man, he's so great. We want to show the world that we could do it. That's just unlikely. I hope they do it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I think that the season that they were having is basically over, and their playoff aspirations to win a championship are probably not realistic this year, which is just a total bummer because that was a really fun team to watch. So let's talk about why these injuries are happening and what's causing all these things to happen, because it's pretty clear a lot of people are going down with injury. A lot of things are happening, ups and downs. I believe there's a real reason why this is happening. And the shortened seasons, number one, there's several reasons why we're going to talk about in this section of the video. But I'm usually the one where I'm like, rub some dirt on it, get back out there and play, play through it. But just this season feels a little bit different to me. And I have some reasons why I want to show you here so you can see what I'm talking about. I found an article on Complex Sports, and I think it was so interesting and compelling that I want to read it to you. So it's by a man named Adam Caparelli, and he's a senior editor at Complex Sports. So I'm giving him full credit. That is just, he had a lot of good stuff in this that I wanted to share. He's basically trying to argue that this season has been down because of all the injuries, and he gives it several points here. Arguably, the biggest reason why that's been the case is the lack of available alphas. Considering the NBA is the most star-driven league out of the major North American sports, the absence of many All-Stars, future Hall of Famers, and living legends can continue to water down the product. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid have missed tons of games and significant injuries. KD and AD have been sitting out for a combined 59 games so far this season, while the Nets' big three have only appeared in 7 games together. Overall, 7 out of our 10 players we identified as the NBA's best before the season tipped off December, LeBron, KD, AD, Steph Curry, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Embiid, have missed a combined 107 games entering Tuesday's action. So I want to go into this as well, that the fact that MVP was so compelling in the middle of the season because you got, Joel Embiid, LeBron James going head to head, then they both go out with injury and they've been, missing significant time. LeBron hasn't even been back yet. Joel Embiid's finally came back. Then you got Harden that was doing really well, then he missing time. So we got Jokic, who's just gonna probably walk to be the MVP backwards at this point. It's a front runner, and I think it's a no-brainer unless he has any injuries, he's the MVP. But it's just kind of an anticlimactic one. Like, that was a really interesting, compelling thing. Now it's not that, and Jokic is definitely deserving, no question. For some reason, this season in front of us is just not the same, and there's several reasons why. Next thing he says that I thought was really compelling is, that's because we're currently in the dog days of the NBA schedule. We're post All-Star break, post trade deadline, still 6 weeks away from the playoffs starting. Basically, he's saying that we have a situation here where players are mailing it in because they don't have opportunity to rest. They're sitting key players. I mean, that's a problem in itself with the NBA now because they're resting and taking back-to-backs off. But like, we have a real issue at hand. I think the shortened season may have caused a lot of these issues. I also want to talk about this tweet that he also referenced. Friday and Saturday in the NBA, 18 games, 4 decided by 44 points or more, and a 22.6 point average win margin. 1 game was decided by 5 points or less. I mean, there's a reason for this, and I think that it has to do with the shortened season. Teams are getting blown out. We're not having as many compelling finishes, but I believe cramming the games together with COVID protocols and the shortened season all play hands into this, the season's injury bug. This leads me to my next point. This tweet here I thought was really interesting. It's a little confusing, but the way I take it as, since the 2005 and 6 season, there's only been 3 in-season ACL tears per season. After Jamal Murray's ACL tear, we're up to 4 for the 2020 and 21 season. And then he follows up with a tweet saying the most in-season was 2012 and 13. I think it might be an average, but the point I'm trying to get at is that we're seeing a significant amount of just ACL tears. That's not even including regular other injuries. There's just like the casual ones, the ankle sprains. I mean, LeBron James, I know he was injured recently, but the guy never gets injured. There has to be a reason why for this. It's just because of the shortened season. If you were to ask me my opinion, I would say yes, but I don't think it's the only reason, but I do think it's done a great disservice to the players and, causing more injuries and potentially boring outcomes. But the problem I have with the situation is that everyone's going to be complaining about everything, no matter what. The games, the COVID protocols, all this. Someone's going to complain about something. It's just the way it works in the society today. This particular situation is really tricky, to say the least. The main issue with the situation isn't just Adam Silver, because imagine being in a situation here. It's really something that is crazy to me. He has to make the quote-unquote right decision no matter what is in front of him. He has to keep in mind with players, staff, fans, coaches, and sponsors, which is the most important thing. They lost a ton of money last year during the pandemic. I mean, I think that Adam Silver's done a spectacular job with all the issues at hand in front of him. It's borderline impossible to do a perfect job. I think he's done probably the best job out of any commissioner in all the sports world. Regarding the pandemic, the social issues, he was probably the strongest front runner for the social issues out of any league. He was progressive, he was on top of it, and he really just takes care of the players. He's done the right thing 9 out of 10 times, and he's done the right thing for the fans. You know, he has taken so many opinions, and he's making the right decisions, it feels like. I think he has done a commendable job, but I do think that the short offseason wasn't a great decision. And I'm not really sure what I would do differently here, to be totally honest with you, because what are you going to do? Just not play? I don't really know. We could talk about that in a future date, but the great position we have as fans is that we're able to look at a situation and say, was it good or bad after the outcome, and then applaud it or say it was a bad decision. And I think Adam Silver's done a great job, but in this particular situation, it's not his best. That's it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe down below, leave a like, leave a comment, do all those good things. I'm going to be posting every day coming up, and that's it. If you enjoyed it, let me know, and if not, enjoy your day. Talk to you guys soon.